This one's about the Brady list. This is a list for prosecutors of police officers whose misconduct renders them, well, useless. The Brady list is full of officers who chose to lie in court, chose to lie on police reports, chose to lie. They are no longer credible because they lied. What I have to deal with is police officers who are trying to protect their coworkers from ending up on the Brady list for crimes they committed against me. But what these officers end up doing is pushing to have themselves added to the Brady list. If you're going to cover for a bad cop, you're a bad cop. Now then there's the officers I've had to speak with in Colorado recently. One of them I spoke with yesterday or last night, and, well, you can tell the difference between the two cops that I spoke with just listening to them. The officer I had to speak with just a few minutes ago, because the officer that I'm supposed to be speaking with won't be on again until Wednesday. Well, the officer I just spoke with was a complete and total asshole. Going out of his way to try to pretend that no matter what, nothing is his job and jurisdiction, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me tell you something about these jurisdictional laws that they keep trying to pretend are enacted in this situation. That only applies if it's only one crime that happens only once in only one place. I'll give you an example. Let's say that Natalie Bollinger's friends, one of Natalie Bollinger's friends, decided that he was going to assault me in Boulder, Colorado. Well, as long as she didn't communicate across multiple jurisdictions, then it's just a Boulder, Colorado issue. However, the moment that they start coordinating with others across multiple jurisdictions, they are committing hate crimes. Not just hate crimes. I mean, there's a lot of different crimes that go along with this. But they're specifically committing hate crimes against a victim for coming forward about abuse. Now, of course, they want to pretend that nothing is in their jurisdiction, no matter what. The officer that I spoke with just recently is Sgt Adams, I believe is the dumbass's name. And unlike the officer who is supposedly helping me with this, his co-sergeant did exactly what I would expect from any officer when you try to turn in one of their coworkers for breaking the law, for intentionally lying, and for going across jurisdictional boundaries to see that their victim is prevented from turning in abuse. When these police officers take you to a hospital, or even another jail, or drop you off at the county border, what they are doing is illegally preventing you from turning them in and abusing jurisdictional boundaries to do it. Meanwhile, all of the things that they're telling me they can't do because of jurisdiction, well, they certainly did those things for the Bollingers regardless of jurisdiction. Officers in at least 8 different counties in Colorado, including Logan, Larimer, Boulder, and Adams, took part in threats, harassment, intimidation, and even assaults against me for trying to come forward about abuse by police officers. These cops assumed, they didn't bother to investigate at any point. The closest that they got to investigating was going out of their way to destroy evidence of their wrongdoing. Then, of course, what runaround do we get? Well, first we're told that we need to turn it in to themselves, but they're not going to listen, are they? If you have to turn in your rapist to himself, let's say John Doe raped you, and you have to turn in John Doe to John Doe. And then John Doe has you arrested for making a false report, or has you arrested for any number of excuses that he wants to come up with. What are you supposed to do about it? You don't have the money for a real lawyer, and he knows it. This is the reason that you're being victimized. You cannot defend yourself. You don't have the money for an attorney. And every cop in America, just like every attorney in America, knows that public pretenders are useless twats. They don't care. They want to get paid. Now, one of the things that the sergeant who's nice to me has told me is that in his position as a sergeant, he knows that I'm honest about this situation and these types of situations with officers. He doesn't like having to deal with that within his own department. Meanwhile, I'm told to turn in, well, we'll give you the example of the Border Police Department. I had to turn in the Border Police Department to themselves. They said they can't investigate themselves. I got to go to the state police. State police said it's not their job to police the police. I have to go to the Border Police Department to turn in the Border Police Department. Meanwhile, the Border Police Department coordinated with the Border Sheriff's Department in order to harm me, harass me, threaten me, assault me, and lie to the public about it. Not only that, they intentionally did everything they could to prevent me from being able to record any of those situations, and went out of their way to destroy recorded evidence that I told the truth repeatedly. And of course, I'm still having to deal with this abuse, and the officer who's nice, you know, the good cop, bad cop thing, I'm going to let you in on a big secret. The bad cop isn't the one who's faking it. The good cop is always the one who's faking. There's no such thing as a good cop. Now, this cop that I have been speaking with, who I stated that there's a possibility I could be wrong, that maybe there is one good cop. Well, no, there's not. There's not. Now, why am I still trying to work with this guy? And why am I not posting his name all over YouTube and all over Facebook and all of that? Well, I'm about to. The officer's name is Sgt Watson. He stated that he's not allowed to share any information with the media. It's against the law. Well, it certainly wasn't against the law for Adams County Police or Adams County Sheriff's Department. It wasn't illegal for them. It wasn't wrong for them. They're allowed to talk to the media, and Sgt Watson isn't. Sgt Watson has stated very loudly and clearly that my life is in danger. He has acknowledged that the evidence that he has seen does lead him to believe that my life is in danger. The problem is that I'm still taking the abuse, and I still have no way to turn it in unless Sgt Watson is on duty, and he is rarely on duty. His schedule also keeps on changing, so I don't know what day I'm supposed to call him. So as much as I'm trying to do the right thing, I'm also getting bullied by his coworkers. His co-sergeant, I believe he said his name is Adams. See, when it comes to finding out what's going on, he wasn't interested in that. What he's interested in doing is trying to dig for excuses that whatever has happened to me is somehow okay and not illegal, or at least not his responsibility. Well, it actually is his responsibility. Now, he wanted to claim that one of the people who harmed me from his jurisdiction is actually not quite in his jurisdiction. Well, how do you know? How do you know that at the time that these things happened, that this person who told me that they were literally in Estes Park, How do you know that they were not in Estes Park at the time that those things happened? That's not what it's about to this guy. What it's about for Sergeant Adams is hiding the crimes committed by other officers. And at this point, that includes himself. So I have to try to get a hold of Ian, who is he was the interim police chief in Estes Park after they fired the last police chief in Estes Park over the Brady list. That's right. There were some officers in Estes Park, Colorado, who didn't feel that they needed to be honest. They got busted and put on the Brady list. And that's what Sergeant Adams is looking forward to now, ending up on the Brady list. When it comes to these officers who outright lied, there's plenty of evidence that they lied. Now, those police say that it's not their job. I have to turn them into the state police, and the state police say it's not their job to police the police. And then, of course, they want to send me to mental health, who says it's not their job. I got to go to the police. So I go back to the police, and then the police tell me, oh, no, you have to go to the insert state name followed by Attorney General's office. Right? So if people are harming you from Colorado and harassing you from Colorado and have harassed you across multiple jurisdictions and crossed state lines to harass you, oh, they don't care about the jurisdiction then. No matter what, I can't turn in somebody who traveled from Boulder, Colorado to Chapel, Nebraska to harm me, or from Boulder, Colorado to Sydney, Nebraska to harass my sister, or threaten to kill my sister. I'm not allowed to turn that in Boulder, Colorado, because Boulder, Colorado says, oh, well, it didn't happen here. It happened in Nebraska. You got to turn it in Nebraska. But if I try to turn it in Nebraska, they say, oh, you can't turn it in here. He's from Colorado. You got to turn it into Colorado. So then I get a hold of the Colorado Attorney General's office, because that's who I'm told to go to. You got to turn in bad cops. You turn them into the Colorado Attorney General's office. The Colorado Attorney General's office tells you that it's not their job. Right now, I'm dealing with the same exact thing here in Oregon. I'm having to wait on a callback from the Oregon Attorney General's office over abuse because of Natalie Bollinger and these nasty fucking cops. The officer in this case that should be doing something is on vacation basically for the next few days, or his days off. And the sergeant who's on duty right now is not a good person. He is not interested in the truth. He's not interested in stopping the abuse. He's interested in any excuse that he can use as an excuse to talk over me and make me feel like I am less of a human being than I actually am. So I do need to turn him in to his supervisor, which would be this Ian feller who took over after his boss, who was obviously hiring people who were immoral as all hell, lost his job for hiring people who were immoral as all hell. So do I have any trust for this Ian feller? No. Am I going to follow instructions anyway? Yeah. If I don't try, if I don't do what I'm told by police, they claim that I'm not trying to get help. But if I do what they tell me to do, then I have to worry about getting arrested for breaking the law. Well, excuse me, says I, but if a police officer told me this is what I was supposed to do and I followed the police officer's instructions, then maybe you should go after that cop instead of harming me for following instructions. When police officers want to send me to mental health instead of doing their jobs, well, mental health, it's not their jobs to investigate crimes against me, but they do legally have to turn it in. Do they turn it in? No. The United States is a disgusting place. If you have no money, you have no rights. People can harm you, and they don't have to have a shred of evidence proving you did anything wrong. An accusation is good enough when it's a homeless person or a mentally ill person who has no friends or family members. Now, before you go pretending that somebody who has no friends or family members deserves that, no. I want you to keep in mind that not that long ago, people who were different were literally murdered for it. That includes children. Some of the societies that you spark an interest in and worship so greatly, such as the Spartans. First of all, they weren't a democracy. Second of all, homosexuality was forced on their entire society. I'm not saying homosexuality is wrong, because I don't think it is. I do think that it's wrong to force somebody's sexual preference onto them. Like when you guys decide that I'm gay as an excuse to harm me, or you decide that I'm temporarily straight so you can pretend that I couldn't take no for an answer, that I was after Natalie Bollinger's vagina, and blah, 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 blah. Insanity. Now, Sergeant Adams got a severe attitude with me and chose to lie to me about multiple situations. He was just bullying. That's all he was doing. He started off with a shitty tone, and he kept his shitty tone. I recorded Sgt Watson. Sgt Watson does not take that shitty tone with me. He doesn't treat me like I'm an abuser. He acknowledged that the abuse is very real. He also acknowledged that it is unsafe for me to turn in these predators to their own agencies because of the evidence of these agencies committing felonies to protect their coworkers. So, Sgt Watson of the Estes Park Police Department in Colorado is the officer I've been in contact with. And if it weren't for the unsafe situation created by his coworker today, I would have kept his name a secret and continued to try to work with him. At this point, I still have to try to continue to work with him, but I cannot afford to keep his name safe or private. Now, if these officers are going to tell me that certain things are illegal, then it needs to be reviewed why it is that these illegal acts were allowed to be committed against me repeatedly. If police officers are only allowed to deal with something in their jurisdiction, then why is it that police officers were repeatedly allowed to physically harm me across multiple jurisdictional lines and have me sent to other jurisdictions so that I couldn't turn them in? So when Sgt Watson talks about the situations where, as a sergeant, he's aware of these things with officers, well, looking at the history of the Estes Park Police Department, he probably does have some experience with that. He probably has a lot of experience with that. He probably has coworkers that he can't turn in, despite the fact that they're absolutely criminals. There's a good chance he'll have to worry about losing his job. Now, all of these predators in law enforcement have been allowed to get away with their abuse by pretending that I'm schizophrenic and delusional. This is because if they don't do their job, they can go to fucking prison for it. The officers that should have done their jobs in Natalie Bollinger's case before she was killed and chose not to belong in prison for it. But there won't be prison for them, will there? No, because their coworkers helped them to drag this out as long as possible and ignore every piece of abuse against me. It's not that the evidence doesn't exist. Many of you on my channel have gotten to see actual physical assaults against me. So why aren't you doing something about it? While my predators are active in their harm against me. Are you actively trying to help stop the abuse? Are you actively trying to turn it in? Because they will try to turn in literally anything that I do. If I sneeze in the wrong direction, they'll pretend that I tried to go at them with a biological weapon. If I say that killing is wrong, they'll use that to pretend that I'm threatening to kill people. Fucking insanity. If it doesn't fit their narrative, it must be okay for you to hurt me over it, huh? Oh, that's just a beetle. Never mind. I found a black thing. I thought for a second that it might be a spider. Now that I know it's a beetle, I'm not too worried about it. Anyway, I'm going to end this video. Sgt Watson is the officer that was trying to help, sort of. He also wanted to make sure that the villain's crime was not involved in our communication with each other. His claim was that it's against the law for him to talk to the media, which apparently wasn't against the law for a lot of other people to slander me to the media, other officers to slander me to the media, and social media, and otherwise. When I was told to go to social media, I did. When I was told to go to my friends and family, I did. When I was told to go to the media, I did. Meanwhile, my friends and family did more to help my predators than they ever did to help me. Because what I needed them to do was speak up to the police with me, not argue with idiots on Facebook. I'm being abused because other people chose to harm someone who, according to American law, isn't allowed to defend themselves, isn't allowed to protect themselves, isn't allowed to speak up about abuse, isn't allowed to show evidence. Now, why is this that the law prevents disabled people from having any of their rights? We've got some wonderfully written laws that are supposed to protect people like me from exactly this kind of situation. But it doesn't work when nobody who works for the government is going to do their jobs. They're too busy protecting pedophiles. That's reality. They are too busy trying to make pedophile Trump happy. You're disgusting people. Now, I have to try to turn in the situation because, despite the fact that I have been in contact with Sgt Watson repeatedly and sent him plenty of evidence, nothing has happened. Nothing. I'm not getting callbacks from these people saying, hey, we're going to do something about your case. We looked at your evidence. There's a break in the case. No, I'm not getting anything. I'm being ignored until I call them. Not okay. So I have to turn in Sgt Watson's co-worker, Sergeant Adams, to who? Well, I was told by Sergeant Adams that the stuff that happened as a result of police officers needs to be turned into the Attorney General, Governor's Office of Operations, Colorado. Now, when they tell us that we have to turn in Sergeant Adams to his own department, what are we going to do? We're going to do what we're instructed to do. Call up his own department and turn him into himself, basically. Or literally, as the case has been on multiple occasions. Now, I understand with as much as has happened how these guys could easily get some of this stuff confused. That's why it's important to write it down. That's also why it's important not to get a shitty attitude and go out of your way to treat a victim like shit for coming forward. The fact is that it is all of these officers' job and jurisdiction to do something about this. But they just don't want to. If they just don't want to do their job, they shouldn't be getting paid. Officer Adams is likely going to end up on the Brady list. There are a lot of officers who are likely going to end up on the Brady list if I can find one good cop. Is Sgt Watson that one good cop? Remains to be seen. He sure talks nicer. He acts like a good cop. But like I said before, between the good cop and the bad cop, it's the good cop who's faking it. The bad cop is an asshole to you because he wants to be an asshole. And the good cop probably wants to be an asshole too, but he's playing head games with you. No matter what, all of these officers have done what they can to prevent the truth from showing up in court. Preventing actual recorded evidence from being shown in court. They did everything they could to make sure that the actual evidence, recorded evidence, was prevented from going to court, and only their lies and slander were allowed in court. Now, obviously, when it comes to abuse against disabled people, it is somebody's job to investigate it. The police kept sending me to mental health, and mental health sent me to the police, and they kept sending me back and forth to each other and to other jurisdictions, other counties, other states, threatening, harassing, and intimidating myself and my loved ones. This is not what police officers are supposed to do. These officers are committing the same exact crimes that these people on the internet are committing. But they don't care because the American people, well, they treat police officers the same way they treat women. They must be telling the truth, and they could never do anything wrong. They're made of sugar and spice and everything nice. That's just not reality, folks. It's unrealistic.